It's time for the Snap.Build cast, your podcast focused on home builders of all sizes and offering professional views of experts in the home building industry, from financing to final walkthroughs. Thanks for joining us. Let's get building.
Welcome to Snap.Build cast. It's Michael D'Antonio, and I am here with special guest Brad David. Brad is the Executive VP of Snap.Build. Welcome, Brad.
Thanks for having me.
You have a big title.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So let's talk about what you do. Let's talk about first what you did, right?
Sure.
So, the cast is all about builders. It's all about residential home construction, and it's about the industry. And Snap.Build plays a role in that. But you have a unique background in the sense that you're a builder. So talk a little bit about your experience and how you got involved in building.
Sure. So I always kind of describe myself as the builder in the crowd. And, by that, I grew up in the business. My family was in the residential development and new home construction business in the Atlanta market for 40 years. And so I grew up in the business. After I graduated from the University of Georgia, I went to work for the largest home builder in the country at the time, which was Syntex Homes, and did that for a couple years and then joined the family business. Numerous stops along the way, but that's kind of the short version. So I have a background in development, new home construction, new home sales. I'm a licensed contractor in the state of Georgia, licensed real estate agent in the state of Georgia, and so kind of have a broad spectrum of experiences as far as new construction goes.
Why building? What drew you to, right? Because
Yeah,
when everyone's in college, you're like, I'm gonna be
Sure.
astronaut, right? What led you to construction and that industry?
There are a lot of reasons I'm not an astronaut, but no, I was drawn to it. Growing up, I did the typical, kind of builder's kid routine where I worked for my dad and my uncles and did every odd job you could think of, from cleaning out houses to, whatever it could possibly be. Cleaning sheetrock out of houses is the one thing that should have driven me from ever wanting to be involved in the business, but it didn't. And so, I had a great relationship with my dad.
Yeah.
It was always kind of a dream to go work with him, and I love the industry. I love the ability to, create and build things, and it's not that different from other things. When you grow up in it, you're close to it. You're drawn to it.
Yeah.
That was it for me.
Well, and it's also, I have friends that are carpenters, right? And people say, "Oh, he's a carpenter." I think he's an artist.
Absolutely.
I think he's a he's a scientist, right? Like, you're creating pretty much something from scratch, right?
Yeah,
you're
100%.
When you're building homes and you're building people's dream homes, it's art. So and the process of building is so interesting as I start to get to know it more. What do builders really care about? Like, when you're working for your dad and your experiences in builders, in working with builders and being a builder, what are the things they care about to be successful?
Sure. And kind of to your point, the part of the business that I was always drawn to and really enjoyed the most was the creative aspect of it. The hard part of the building business is the finance piece of it. It's just difficult. And, so especially when you're talking about, speculative homes, we call them specs. It's a term that's kind of an industry standard. But what that is it means there's a builder out there that's going out, identifying property. He's choosing a house plan, and he's building that house in a speculative nature, hoping that he finds a buyer for it. It sounds super easy, who wouldn't buy a house, et cetera, but
Right.
There are a lot of nuances to it, and it's complicated. But one of the biggest challenges that all builders face, no matter what size, whether it's the guy doing a couple of houses a year or it's the guy trying to really grow his business and do a multi-unit, kind of business model, they all need funding. They all need access to capital, because that's the gas that makes the engine run in the building business. It's very capital intense, and it affects their profitability. It affects their ability to grow and scale. And so, that's really, if you, and I've got, builder friends across the country, every different size you can think of, and every one of them, to a man, is always looking for access to capital, cheaper capital, and capital that fits their business need, you know?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we are as a lender. We're a builder-friendly lender. And I can say that because I'm a builder, and now I'm on this side of the table trying to get other builders money.
Right.
Yeah, and so I know their pain points. I know the stress level of what they're doing, and so I feel like I'm in a unique position to help them through that.
Well, and also you said something. It doesn't really matter based on the type of building organization. Whether they're still looking for money, whether it be
Absolutely.
millions of dollars or $250,000, right?
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
builder needs that funding to be able to build, to grow their business, and to pay their people, right? I mean, that's what it comes.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I've had conversations, already today with some groups that are looking for, a facility. They need access to $150 million in capital. And then I just got off the phone with a guy that has built 2 houses with us, and he's looking to do a couple more. Those are $200,000 or $300,000 houses, and so it doesn't matter the size and the scale. The challenge is always the same.
Yep. Where, and in your experience, because you like you said, you're now you've had the experience on the builder side. You're now on the lending side, and you see both worlds. What has changed over the last 10 years? I mean, in the building industry, the construction industry, the lending, what changes have you seen that have been beneficial to builders and also maybe not so much?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting question because, to be perfectly honest, it's why we exist. It was really the genesis of our company was the fact that coming out of the crash, of 07, 08, 09, there was a need. Again, builders of all levels, shapes, and sizes, they were having trouble getting access to capital, and a lot of that was because of the things that happened in the last crash. And I try not to go too deep in the weeds on those issues because there's a lot of PTSD for me and for other folks.
For other,
but the reality is a lot of things that happened, through the course of that build up and then the subsequent, kind of. I hate to use the word crash, but that's what it was.
Yeah,
absolutely. That really shaped how we came out of it and how the lending environment, to your question, how the lending environment changed for builders. It was tough for builders to get spec money. It was tough for, builders that didn't have super strong balance sheets to get access to any money. And so one of the things that we were able to do with, we've got a technology piece, a platform that runs all of our lending activities. We were able to go to capital partners and say, hey, look, we know spec builders that need money. We underwrite at least as stringently as you do or you ever have. And then we've got a way to control the funding process that really mitigates the risk from a lender's perspective. And so we were able to go to capital groups. They want to be in the space.
Yeah.
But they couldn't take the chance of going down the road that they went through before. And so the platform that we developed is really, and really that's what drew me to the company.
Right.
I'm still a builder. I still build houses.
Yeah.
That's where my brain kind of always is comfortable. But when I saw this platform, I knew two things. I knew that I had builder friends, relationships that could use the access to this type of capital and the technology there to help drive their business. And I also knew that every lender I had ever dealt with, and I had facilities all the way from guys the size of Bank of America down to regional community banks. I knew that they needed our technology to manage the flow of their funds.
Well, that's your experience on the builder side saying this isn't BS, because I'm sure you got pitched when you were a builder by many companies, many tech, and figuring out like, is this really going to work for me? Is this really going to help me build my business? Those are tough decisions for builders because you make the wrong one and you're screwed.
Well, and they're, when you're smaller and you make those decisions, there's a capital commitment that's big. The bigger you are, it's relative, of course, but part of what we always ran into in Metro Atlanta was you had the larger national builders. And so as a small kind of regional or semi-regional builder, what we were always trying to do is how do I compete with, at the time it was Syntex, or there was a massive builder in Metro Atlanta, John Whelan Homes, and I was very enamored with their processes and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I'm building 10 houses a year. How do I compete? Typically, it was through technology.
Right.
And again, it's dating myself a little bit, but that's pre-internet and
Right.
some of the amazing developments we've had since then. But I was always trying to find. I felt like technology was a way for me to compete with the big boys. Well,
And try to close that gap.
And try to close that
Yeah.
gap. I could do more with less, etc. And so I had implemented various project management softwares, etc. They took a lot of man hours to run. So you're trying to run a business, you're trying to implement this piece of technology to help you do better, but I never could really implement it in a way that helped my business grow. And so when I saw what Snap was doing in terms of connecting the capital to the technology piece, which ultimately builders outsource that to us. It's part of every loan that we have.
Yeah.
They don't have to hire anybody. They don't have to add staff. In fact, the opposite happens a lot. They can take people that are just doing this data entry on the lending piece, accounts payable, et cetera. Those people can do other things in their business. They can work on their business rather than in it.
Yep.
That's an old adage.
Yeah.
But it's so true.
Yep.
And so that's when I saw, okay, wait a minute, the light bulb went off. There are some really interesting things going on here, and I just it made a lot of sense to me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Brad, thanks for your insight, and we will be talking again. So cool stuff around technology, the industry, your background, and thanks so much.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Thank you.